Now, I told you guys before that a majority of what an English teacher does is just photocopying. We're spending like 5-6 hours a day just photocopying. But another really important part of being a teacher is this: planning. How's it going?
Yeah, we're getting there. Yep, I think it's nearly sorted, all the groups.
Yeah. I think we should get a coffee.
Yeah, let's get a coffee.
Let's get a coffee. Today I am going to attempt to answer a question that people ask me a lot. And that is, how can I improve my English spelling? Because you know, English spelling is really complicated because there's no correspondence between the spelling and the pronunciation. And to try to answer this question, we need to talk about bees. Now, I'm not talking about bees like the black and white insect that flies around your garden. I'm talking about community gatherings. It's an old English word, a bee, that was a community gathering. So we used to have a logging bee where the community would come together to cut down trees, and a sewing bee where the community would come together to sew clothes. But I'm talking about a spelling bee. Now, spelling bees are actual, real competitions to spell words in English. Competitions. Now, if English spelling is so difficult that it can be competitive, then you know that we have a real problem, right? Now, maybe we can answer the question of how to spell really well in English by looking at people who win spelling bees, because they have all the secrets, right? But before we talk about spelling bee winners, let's talk about a couple of truths. So, one truth is that a majority of English words actually have regular spelling. But the second truth is that the most common words are the ones that change the most, the ones that have the most irregular spelling. So they kind of cancel each other out. But the question is, are there any rules? Has somebody made a list of rules about how to spell English words? Well, yes. There's this company called Logic of English, and they have created what I think are the best rules available for English spelling. According to them, these 31 rules tell you how to spell 98% of English words correctly. The problem is that there are 31 rules, and it's not easy to remember them. For example, rule number 1, C always softens to S when followed by I, E, or Y. Otherwise, C says K. That's just rule number 1. Rule number 2, G may soften to J only when followed by E, I, or Y. Otherwise, G says G. And so on, and so on. Now, how useful is this? How practical is this really when you're looking at a piece of English text? How practical is it to be able to know how to pronounce it? Or if you hear the word, how practical is it to know how to spell it by memorizing these 31 rules? I think it's basically impossible. So we need to find another way to learn how to spell and pronounce English words that actually works. This year, the most famous spelling bee in America, the Scripps Spelling Bee, was won by a 14-year-old boy called Karthik Namani.
Koinonia. K-O-I-N-O-N-I-A. Koinonia.
That is correct.
Now, how did he study to win this spelling bee? How did he learn to spell all of these incredible and difficult words? Listen to this. He studied for 4 hours a day for months, and twice a week he had 2-hour sessions with a coach, a spelling coach. Listen to this. It requires a lot of sacrifices. When I was a speller, I gave up going to social events, going to parties. I gave up some sports that I played, including tennis, which I love. So, is this what it takes to learn how to spell words correctly in English, to know how to pronounce words correctly? You have to sacrifice everything, give up what you love, or memorize a huge list of rules. It's just crazy. So this is the really interesting part of the explanation. So his language coach says this: spelling in English is intimacy with languages. It's knowing the patterns and the roots behind Latin words and the stems in Greek words. And this gives you a clue as to why spelling in English is so difficult, because it's such a mix of so many languages. And English has never been afraid to take words from French, from Latin, from Greek, from German, and just bring them in without changing them. A lot of other languages don't do that. Okay, so let's be realistic. What is actually a practical way that you can learn to spell and pronounce words correctly in English? It's a 2-step process. Step 1 is read a lot. This is one of my favorite books. Step 1 is read a lot. By reading, you visually have contact with those words. You see them again and again and again and again. And you notice how they're spelt. It's a totally subconscious process. And step 2 is to write. Now, I actually recommend writing on your smartphone or on a computer where you have a spell check, because it's a great visual indicator of words you're spelling wrong. Like if you type in the word success with an X and you have that red line underneath, you know it's wrong, so you can go back and correct it. And when you finish typing, you can visually see all the mistakes you make. And over time, you'll have less red lines, every day less red lines. Using a smartphone or a computer, it's like having a teacher standing here saying, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. And it's completely free. Now, I know maybe you're thinking that advice is it's not really helpful, right? It's just too simple, too basic. Why did I just watch, 6 minutes of video for you to tell me to read and write? Because there's no secrets. That's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you that there is no secret, there's no special techniques, there's no magic method, there's no list of rules. It's just practice. And once you understand that, all of the magic of language is unlocked for you. So my advice is simple because it's the truth. It's practical and it works. Okay, so now for the fun part of this video. On the Scripps website, you can actually take a spelling test. So now you can see just how good or bad my spelling is. I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. Okay, let's do this. Test my spelling skill.
Barrenness.
I'm going to... Well, I know it's barren. I know there's double R and single N, but the plural... I'm going to go with this one. I think this is correct,
Pestilential.
Pestilential. I'm pretty sure I know how to spell this, because pestilent, that's a word that I know.
Remittent.
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 I'm doubting between the fourth and the fifth option. I believe that it's the fourth one. Definitely has double T, but is it ENT or ANT?
Pataphysics.
Pataphysics. It's Greek. The problem with English pronunciation is you have the schwa, the pataphysics. Now the because it's not a stressed vowel, the could be anything. It could be an I-E, it could be A-E-I-O-U or Y. So it could be any of these. But which one of them looks kind of Greek? I don't think the fourth one or the fifth one look good. I'm going to go with pato.
Troglodyte.
Troglodyte. Okay, I'm pretty sure that I know how to spell that word. Troglodyte. Yeah, I think it's the second one. I'm doubting between second and third. The other one's definitely not. I'm gonna say the second one.
Flagellate.
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 Okay, so you can see there's three possible pronunciations for that word. I'm pretty sure it's the first one. It just looks right.
Orpiment.
Whoo! Orpiment. Again, the schwa. Play it again, Sam. Let's hear it.
Orpiment.
Orpiment. Originally Latin, it's an orange or yellow mineral consisting of arsenic trisulfide used in fireworks. See, maybe if I'd studied the root, I'd know what orpo meant, or orpi. I don't think it's orpe. I don't think so. Or orpa. I think it might be the final one, orpiment. I'm going to go with the final one. I don't know. Let's see.
Theremin. Theremin.
Theremin.
Theremin. Theremin.
A purely melodic instrument of the electronic family, typically played by moving the right hand between two electrodes with, wow. I've actually seen a video of this instrument. I think it's the middle one. Word number 9. Oh my god. Epipodiale. Greek. Word was formed in Latin from two originally Greek parts and then a Latin combining form. Nice.
Epipodiale.
Epipodiale. I'm going to say it's not 1 and 2. Definitely not. There's got to be epi, because that just looks Greek. Epi, right? Podiale. And I don't like number 5 with the Y at the end. Nah. For me, it's 4 or 5. I'm going to go with number 4. I'm liking the look of that. That looks right to me.
Pteridophyte.
Pteridophyte. 2 Greek parts, again, a division of vascular plants. Because it's Greek, I think it's definitely at the end. It's P-H-Y-T-E. So I'm thinking it's number 1 or number 4 or number 5. I'm going to go with number 1. Pteridophyte.
Pteridophyte.
It's probably the 4th one with that stupid C at the beginning. Greeks! Ooh, bocconcini.
Bocconcini.
Oh my god. I should know how to spell this. But I don't. Oh my god, they're all so similar. Bocconcini. I don't know what the rule is about making plurals in Italian. Is it 1 N or 2 N's? And 1 C or 2 C's? Oh, come on. Okay, I'm just going to look at... I don't think it's the first one. There's too many double letters. It's crazy. Bocconcini. I'm debating between number 2 and number 4. Italians don't kill me. Number 2, number 4. I reckon, let's hear it again.
Bocconcini.
I'm going to go with number 2.
Peak.
Ooh, such a French sound. You know, because in English you have this thing where if the lips are forward, then the tongue is back. Like, That's why you have that horrible like zombie like sound in English. But the French, they have lips forward, tongue forward. They have this everything's different, like and that's exactly the sound here. This
more peak.
More peak. And the French have a lot of silent letters like us. Umopik. I think the mo means that it has to be an O. Is it that second one with all the hyphens? I'm going to go with number 2. So now it's time to see my results. Oh man. Pataphysics incorrect, orpiment incorrect, theremin incorrect, terrifidite incorrect, bocconcini incorrect, pig incorrect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 out of 12. I'm a terrible speller. Wow. Maybe you should go and watch someone else's YouTube channel from now on. So, anyway, I'm Christian. This is Canguro English. I'll see you in class.